She's 30 and still living in La La Land. Girl really thought he'd marry her. My cousin snorted, twirling her champagne. The others laughed, even my aunt who'd once said I was like the daughter she never had. They didn't know I was standing behind the kitchen archway holding the cake knife. I smiled anyway, even though something inside me cracked. That laughter, it wasn't about him. It was about me. And the worst part? I had just received a text that made everything even quieter than their silence ever could. Hi everyone. My name is Elena Hart. And if you've ever had your life detonate in your hands, without a single scream, then stay with me. Because the moment I turned 30, was the moment everything I thought I was building turned to glass. I didn't know why he wasn't answering my calls all morning. Or why he skipped my birthday brunch after RSVPing, can't wait, just last week. But when I finally opened the message that buzzed onto my screen at 2:47 p.m., it felt like the air left the room. It's over. He makes more money. You were just my practice relationship. Just like that. 3 years. Gone. No conversation. No closure. No decency. I blinked. Once. And again. Not a single tear fell. It was like my body didn't know how to react. I was wearing the white silk blouse he once called his favorite. The one he said made me look expensive. Funny. Turns out I was just an emotional layaway. I walked back into the living room. Everyone sang happy birthday. I blew out the candles. I didn't make a wish. Because something else began rising inside me. Calm, steady, unfamiliar. It wasn't heartbreak. It was something colder, cleaner. Like still water over broken glass. I looked down at my ring. And in that moment I didn't see a broken future. I saw a strategy forming. And when I finally lifted my head and smiled again, no one noticed the shift. No one saw the first step of the plan beginning to form, because they'd already dismissed me. But the man who just chose a bigger paycheck over loyalty, he was about to learn something real. The real money was mine. I didn't scream. I didn't call. I didn't even block him. I simply turned off my phone, folded the text into a quiet corner of my brain, and drove to the one place no one expected me to go on my birthday, my office. By day I'm a healthcare consultant. But quietly and very privately I'm something else, a silent investor. 3 years ago, while he was teaching me how to budget for groceries, I was partnering with a legal team to buy out underperforming clinics and restructure them for profit. He never knew. Because I never told him. He once said, "You're smart, but not money smart like me." I smiled when he said it. And then I wired $500,000 into a clinic that now sends 6 figures to my holding company every quarter. My real strength? Silence. So I pulled up the file. His clinic. The one he bragged about running single-handedly. The one where he was just promoted to head of diagnostics. What he didn't know was that last month his clinic had quietly submitted a funding request to my firm. And the paperwork? Still unsigned. Still under review. I stared at the folder. My fingers hovered over the trackpad. If I clicked approve, his clinic would stay open. If I didn't, well, but no. That wasn't the move. That would be emotional. What I wanted was surgical. So I called Dominic, my finance lead. Dom, remember that Midtown private clinic? Mercy Diagnostics. Yeah. You want me to decline the funding? No, I said calmly. I want to buy them. Silence. Then a slow whistle. You want the whole thing? Yes, I said, standing in the dark, the glow of my screen painting shadows across my living room. And I want it done fast. By next Friday. He hesitated. Elena, you sure? I'm done being sure, I whispered. I'm ready to be undeniable. That night I didn't sleep. I just sat in bed staring at the message one more time. You were just my practice relationship. I smiled. Let's see how he likes practicing unemployment. And when I deliver the news, it won't be a text. It'll be face to face. With every staff member watching. The morning light broke like glass across my apartment floor. So, by 9 a.m. Dominic had confirmed it. Deal in motion. Mercy Diagnostics was about to be mine. A quiet acquisition masked through an LLC under a different name. The staff would have no idea who the new owner was. Not until I walked in. And that was exactly what I wanted. I kept my voice calm in every meeting, every email, every wire transfer. But inside, something colder than rage was moving through me. Something calculating, methodical, patient. Because I wasn't just buying a building. I was buying a moment. One I'd stage with absolute precision. Friday at noon. That's when the paperwork would be finalized. That's when I'd walk into his clinic, and everything would change. But the universe has a funny sense of humor. On Wednesday, 2 days before I was set to take over, I got an email, automated, cheerful. Subject: Invitation to the engagement party of Dr. Nathan Hale and Cassandra Kim. Location: Mercy Diagnostics Staff Lounge. Date: Friday 1 p.m. I stared at the screen. My fingers trembled for the first time in days. Cassandra. Of course. She'd always hovered too close. That fake laugh. That extra button undone when he walked by. He told me she was just a colleague. Now she was the celebration. And I? The lesson. I leaned back, letting the bile of betrayal coat my tongue. They were throwing a party. At the clinic. At my clinic. 1 hour after I became their boss. I whispered to no one. This is better than I could have planned. I stood, opened my closet and ran my fingers over hangers. I knew what I'd wear, white. The same blouse he once called angelic. And in my bag I'd carry one thing. A small matte black gift bag. Inside it my engagement ring. And the printed screenshot of his message. Framed in silver. Poetic. Quiet. Devastating. Like a scalpel to the soul. He wanted a bigger salary. He wanted a new girl. He wanted me to disappear. But I wasn't disappearing. I was arriving. And when the clock strikes 1, they won't be cutting cake. They'll be cutting ties. Friday arrived like thunder behind glass, silent but shaking everything. I stood in front of the mirror, fastening the final button on my blouse. White silk just like before. But this time the softness wasn't for him. It was armor. My makeup was light, my lips a shade called mercy. The irony made me smile. At exactly 11:52 a.m. I stepped into the elevator of the Mercy Diagnostics building, heels clicking, breath steady. A leather folder in one hand. The gift bag in the other. The security guard gave me a polite nod. Here for the noon appointment? Yes, I said. Finalizing a purchase. He had no idea. None of them did. Upstairs, Dominic was waiting in the hallway, tie askew, eyes wide. It's done, he whispered. They signed everything. Mercy Diagnostics is yours. I took the folder from him and nodded. Good. You can go. He blinked. You sure you don't want me there when you... No, I said gently. This part is personal. The staff lounge was decorated with gold and silver streamers. A banner read, Congratulations, Dr. Hale and Cassandra. The catering table was full. Someone was pouring champagne. Booked, happy, until the door opened. And I stepped in. The silence hid in waves. First the receptionist. Then a nurse mid-laugh. Then Cassandra herself holding a plastic flute of champagne, eyes frozen mid-toast. And then Nathan. My ex. The man who once held my hand through cancer screenings, who once said I was his safe place. He looked up. And for a moment I watched the color drain from his face like ink from paper. Elena, he breathed. What are you? I'll only need 2 minutes, I said. Calm. Measured. And then I turned to the room. Hi everyone. I'm Elena Hart. As of noon today, I'm the new owner of Mercy Diagnostics. I let the words sit. Let them settle. People glanced around. No one spoke. I walked to the center table, set down the leather folder. Beside it I placed the black gift bag. Then looked Nathan directly in the eyes. You texted me on my birthday, I said. Called me your practice relationship. He swallowed. Cassandra stepped closer to him, confused. Consider today your final exam, I continued. Then I reached into the folder. And pulled out 2 envelopes. Both labeled. Termination notice. One for Nathan. One for Cassandra. Their names printed in sharp, ink black letters. Cassandra gasped. Nathan stepped forward, face pale. You can't be serious. I'm very serious, I said, voice low but steady. In fact, these letters are signed, sealed, and effective immediately. A stunned technician dropped a plate. It shattered against the tiled floor like a warning shot. The room stood still, trapped in the gravity of humiliation. I turned to the rest of the staff, their eyes flitting between the couple and me. I'm not here for drama, I said. I'm here to clean house. Cassandra's lips parted. You can't just fire people because of personal reasons. Actually, I said, stepping closer, I can. Because this isn't personal. It's structural. I opened the folder again and pulled out a printout of internal complaints, all logged anonymously. Inappropriate conduct between staff. Disrespectful behavior toward female nurses. Skipping compliance checks. I looked at Nathan. All tied to one man. And now, one couple. Nathan blinked, his voice cracking. You planned this. I tilted my head. No. You did. I just finished the story you started. Then I held out the small black gift bag. He didn't move. So I set it gently on the counter between us. Inside, my engagement ring. And a framed screenshot of his message. It's over. He makes more money. You were just my practice relationship. A few staff members covered their mouths. Someone whispered, wow. Cassandra turned red, her champagne glass still trembling in her fingers. Nathan opened his mouth, but this time I raised a hand. No more explanations. You made your choice. Now I've made mine. The receptionist tried to stifle a smile. One of the janitors muttered, damn. Me. I simply walked away. I didn't look back. Didn't flinch. Didn't soften. Because poetic revenge isn't loud. It's surgical. Precise. Clean. As I stepped into the elevator, I heard Cassandra's voice crack behind me. Who is she? And someone answered with awe in their voice. She's the owner. The elevator doors closed behind me with a quiet ding, but the echo of that room followed me all the way down. I didn't cry. Didn't smile. Just stood there watching my own reflection in the mirrored panels. The woman staring back. She wasn't the same one who used to shrink at family dinners, who once waited hours for his texts, who said, "It's okay, I understand," when it wasn't. That Elena? She was gone. Outside, the city hummed on. Indifferent. Alive. I walked straight to my car, the silence inside like a bomb. But just as I buckled my seatbelt, my phone buzzed again. One missed call. Then 10. All from Nathan. By the time I pulled into my driveway, it was 21. Then a message. Please. Just talk to me. What you did, it wasn't fair. Fair. I stared at the screen and let out the smallest laugh. Fair was packing my birthday cake into the fridge while reading the words, he makes more money. Fair was not ghosting someone you once called your forever. But instead of replying, I took a deep breath and powered off the phone. That weekend, the clinic changed. Cassandra's replacement showed up Monday. Punctual, brilliant, and twice as qualified. Nathan's position was eliminated entirely. His photo was removed from the hallway. His nameplate, gone. By Tuesday, staff started whispering about how the new boss ran things differently. Calmer, smarter, cleaner. Me. I began showing up once a week. Not in silence, but in confidence. Walking the halls like someone who didn't need to prove her worth anymore. Just own it. On Wednesday, the receptionist handed me a package. No return address, she said. But I think it's from him. I opened it in my office. Inside. The watch I bought him for our anniversary. A note. I know I can't undo it. But I wanted you to know I see you now. You were never practice. You were the real thing. I sat with that for a long moment. Not angry. Not moved. Just at peace. Because sometimes the real power isn't in proving anything to someone else. It's knowing you don't need to anymore. And for the first time in years, I breathed without ache. A week later, I returned to the clinic to finalize our new patient outreach program. It was quiet, productive. The staff moved with purpose now. No more flirtation behind closed doors. No more ego in the break room. Just healing, just work. I was reviewing files in my office when Ava, our youngest nurse, knocked softly. There's someone asking for you. In the lobby. I stood, smoothing the sleeve of my blazer. Who is it? She hesitated. He says he just wants 5 minutes. I knew before I even stepped out. Nathan stood there, jacket in hand, eyes dimmed with something that looked like regret but carried no weight anymore. Elena, he started, voice barely above a whisper. I didn't know you had this in you. I looked at him. Not as an ex. Not even as a mistake. But as a man I no longer needed anything from. Not answers, not closure, not revenge. I didn't have this in me, I said quietly. You put it there. He looked down, biting the inside of his cheek. I made a choice, he muttered. A stupid one. And I lost everything. I raised an eyebrow. You didn't lose everything. You gained her. He exhaled a sad laugh. She left. Said she couldn't work in a place that made her feel watched. I nodded slowly. Accountability does that. He shifted. Do you think there's ever a version of this of us that could have survived? I paused. Looked him square in the eye. There was. And you texted it into extinction. Silence. I stepped closer just enough for him to feel the finality in my words. You wanted a woman who would dim herself so you could shine. I wanted a partner who saw me in full light. That was the difference. He nodded slowly. You've changed. No, I said, voice calm and clear. I just stopped pretending. I turned to walk away but stopped at the door. Thank you for coming, I added. I hope you heal. But not here. He didn't follow. Didn't plead. He just stood there, still in the lobby of the life he once thought was beneath him. And I walked back into my office, stronger, quieter, freer. The next morning I arrived early. Sunlight poured into the clinic's main hallway like soft gold, wrapping the walls in warmth. Felt different. Like peace finally had a place to live. I made coffee, signed a few new contracts, then stood by the window watching the street wake up. No calls from Nathan since our last conversation. No texts. Just silence. And for once, silence felt like a gift. Around noon a courier arrived. Slim package. Pale envelope. No return name. Inside was a legal document. Nathan had signed away all shares he held in a biotech startup we once discussed investing in, together. I'd passed. He'd gone in solo. It had done well. Attached was a short note. You were never my practice. You were my compass. You deserve more than I ever knew how to give. I stared at the words. Not with tears. Not with yearning. Just understanding. Some people show you exactly who they are when you stop holding them together. And some stories end not with fury, but with grace. I handed the papers to my assistant. Donate the shares, I said. To the oncology fund. In my mother's name. She nodded, her eyes soft. Later that evening I closed the clinic myself. Turned off each light. Locked every door. Outside, the city buzzed beneath a velvet sky. I walked past the window where his name used to hang. And for the first time I didn't feel like something had been taken from me. I felt whole. Untouched. Unbothered. Because revenge wasn't in the firing. Or the framed screenshot. Or even the look on his face. Revenge was becoming untouchable. I walked into the night, the wind lifting my hair, my heart beating steady. I wasn't angry. I wasn't broken. I wasn't his. I was free.